Good morning. Good morning to each of you. I am Dr. Corrine Johnson, and I would like to welcome each of you on this morning to Grace for Today 5 Minute Devotions. And on this morning, our subject is going to be choose faith over fear. And our key scripture is going to be coming from Mark chapter 10, verses 48 through 49. And I'm going to be reading it from the NLT version of the Bible. And it says, "Be quiet." Many of the people yelled at him, but he only shouted louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me." When Jesus heard him, he stopped and said, "Tell him to come here." And so when we think about fear on this morning, fear can paralyze your potential. Fear can prevent you from reaching out for help and prohibit you from growing closer to God. And so, if you want to jumpstart your faith, you're going to have to learn how to face your fears so they don't control you. And so, when you choose faith over fear, your spiritual life gets trapped in a rut because the fear of emotional pain replaces the hope of God's promises. Fear keeps you from trying to do anything new for God. And therefore, it limits your commitment to serve Him. And so, in the scripture on this morning, we see where Bartimaeus, the blind man Jesus encountered, had to face his fear of rejection if he wanted to reach Jesus. And so when he shouted out to Jesus, many of the people that was around him yelled, "Don't do that. Be quiet. Don't make a scene. Surely Jesus isn't interested in you." So the people begin to discourage him by basically telling him that, hey, Jesus has more important things to do than to deal with you. But we see in the scripture where Bartimaeus chose to live by faith rather than fear. And so he continued to shout out even louder. To get closer to Jesus, we got to understand that we need to turn our back on fear, because your faith isn't dependent on what other people think about you. Your faith isn't even dependent on what you think. All that matters is what God thinks about you. And if your fear starts saying God isn't interested in you, you got to begin to reject that, because God sent his only son to save me, to save you, to save the world. And just like Jesus cares about Bartimaeus, he cares about you and I. And so God's love is perfect. His love is complete and it is unconditional. So if there is any fear in your life, I come to tell you this morning that you got to stand up to it. You got to reject it, because fear is going to paralyze your potential. It's going to prevent you from growing closer to God. And so on this morning, I want you to jumpstart your faith. And you do that by facing your fears so that your fears does not control you. And so on this morning, thank you all so much for tuning in and joining with me for Grace for Today 5 Minute Devotions. God bless you and have a great day.